Well, we'll call the meeting to order. Then can you do roll call, please?
Mike Dolson,
I'm here.
Tom McDonald,
Here.
Jennifer Finley, Jim Molitor, Carol Langford, Danielle Matt,
Here.
Bing Matt, James Steele Jr., Martin Charlo,
Present.
Len Tooties.
Got hopefully a prayer. Tom, you want to do a prayer this morning?
Sure can. Thank you. Creator, I want to thank you for this day. Thank you all for all the blessings you've given us, our homes, our family, our friends, all the resources that we have on our reservation. And we give you thanks for all those people that are serving public service, the nurses, the doctors, police, the military, all of our teachers, and all those that put themselves in harm's way for us. Pray for all those that are lost a loved one, they find happiness again quickly. We pray for all those that are ill, sick, that they come healthy quickly. We do all this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Tom. We have minutes from February 29th. Take a quick look at the minutes, please.
Chairman, I make a motion to approve the February 29th, 2024 minutes.
Motion by James Steele to approve the February 29th minutes, second by Tom. Tom? Any other additions or amendments? All in favor? Lynn? Let's see, Danielle. I've got Martin. Danielle?
Yes, with corrections, please, on page 4 and 7.
Okay. That's 7-4 and 1 abstention. I'm abstaining. This is Mike. Have an agenda for today. We'll look at the agenda. Do we have anybody for additions to the agenda? And 1 walk-in. If there isn't anything else, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion?
Motion by Tom. Second by Jimmy. All in favor? Unanimous. Guess we can go to our walk-in. Good morning. How are you, Deborah? Oh. Okay.
Good morning. Thank you for letting me walk in and visit you this morning. We have a program. It's a heavy equipment, truck driving, highway construction training program. And we received some funding from the state for that. And over the last few years, I don't remember when it started, they started asking us for a limited waiver of sovereign immunity so that we could get this money that we get to do the program. And I apologize for walking in this morning, and I did let Jennifer know I will send her the electronic version. I just gave Chairman Dolson a paper copy of it. But it's for a specific contract. I think the contract's $100,000. It's very limited to only the Highway Construction Training Program grant. Primarily, I think it's because they want to be able to come after us for damages if we don't finish a project or spend the money inappropriately. But there's been a lot of discussion amongst the tribes and the previous councils about that limited waiver. I apologize for bringing it in today. I finally got a hold of it last night because the state sends it all over the place. And we have to re-educate them every year about the process that we have to use to get this limited waiver. And I'm going to be gone on Thursday, and our contract ends in about 5 days. And so we're trying to get it signed and back to the state. I apologize for this. We are usually way in advance of everything, but there's been changes at the state, and so it's a learning curve all over again. So my request is that you would entertain signing the resolution for a limited waiver of sovereign immunity for that grant for the Highway Construction Training Program.
Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Chairman. Sandra, is it unique to this one thing? Have you done the limited waiver before?
We have. So we had one with the US Department, it's mostly the state that's doing it. We had it in some federal grants, but we were able to argue that that was not appropriate. And that language has been removed for some of those federal programs, but the state still has it in a number of theirs, and they're all around the technical training vocational programs. So yeah, that waiver is in like our extension stuff and our highway construction, but each grant, they look for a waiver of that particular project.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, follow up. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I know that there was an accident with truck driving before, and so.
That's been about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm just trying to remember. That was where the wheel came off or something, and
Yeah.
somehow down by Dirty Corner or something.
Yes.
So I'm assuming then, your own, the college's legal counselor, you got it all squared away and all ducks are in a row. And
Yeah, though that issue actually was found not to be the college's fault, and it was all resolved. I will tell you, there was one other incident where somebody had like I'm guessing because I was not here then, but a storage container that
oh,
fell on somebody over here. They were not killed, they were injured though. Again, that was taken care of. This is money that we use to buy fuel and maintain the vehicles, is what this particular piece of the funding is for.
Mr. Chair.
But we've been accident-free now, as long as I am aware.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd make the motion to approve the request, pending any internal legal review that we might need. I don't know if we need to or
I
not.
think it needs to go to contracts and grants and to legal, so yeah. Got a motion by
Pending,
Tom?
pending their positive review.
Chairman Dawson, if I could ask a question, because this is another internal thing within the tribes that we've gone kind of back and forward with contracts and grants, because they said legal review, but that they have no basis to review it. They have nothing to do with those contracts. So they are recommended that it goes from council to legal, and then just that's what it was
That's what
last
we'll look
time.
at doing. Do need a second. Second by James. All in favor? Martin, Danielle?
Mr. Chair, I'll abstain. I had to take a call from my doctor, so I didn't catch the first part of the issue.
I don't have Danielle out of the room, Martin abstain, and 6-4. And we'll move it toward legal as quick as possible.
Thank you very much. And I will send an electronic version to Jennifer so that she can, it's easier that way. And then I will not be available on Thursday, but I'll work out with Jennifer who can maybe pick it up by, because I don't know if you're open on Friday. But then we can hopefully have it back and send it in. So thank you all very much. I appreciate you, and hopefully we won't be doing last minute in the future, so.
Well, thank you for keeping the vocational stuff going. The truck driving is really important. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. So I just wanted to bring up the issue of the opioid settlement funds. I'm not really sure what our plan was. I know we talked about creating a committee that would administer any projects to making sure that we're in compliant with the stipulations of the settlement agreement. I've had a few groups from Elmo approaching me. They have some very good projects that they wanted to move forward with. So I just wanted to bring this to the council attention so we can start that process. So let's get that committee together and let's get things going and let the membership know that these funds are available. They're available to help the people out as they are trying to get to a clean, sober life. But I just think it's really important that we're making sure that we're supporting our membership when they're trying to do these types of projects. Anyway, just
Thank you, Lynn. James?
yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. In that regard, I think whoever that is, they should get a hold of Kathy Ross as well, because I know she's got money there to help with projects immediately. So while we're waiting for the other money to get to us, I mean, she's got funds right available to help. You know, that group that came in, they were going to come in and ask us for money for training and such from NARS. Kathy was able to help them and get them to training and such. So that whole was like 5 or 6 of them, I think. That whole group got sent to peer mentoring training is what it was. And Kathy paid for that whole thing. So I'm real familiar with that budget because I happened to work on that budget. Good to know.
Good, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And hey, thank you, Len, for bringing that up because I just want to make sure that, yeah, at some point in time, we need to, sooner the better, identify, a committee and how it's going to be, we're going to spend that money. But I'd like to advocate for that to be an endowment, that we would spend an annual budget that would be based on the interest earned from that money. And it could be used also for matching grants, seed money, And so, you know, or it would be used in a collage of funding. Because those folks that were really impacted by this fortunate situation with the overdosing people with prescription pain medicine, they're dealing with it with their whole life. For a lot of those people, it's not going away. And so is this going to be a perpetual problem with opioids? And so I'd like to be able to say that, yeah, we got it and we put it in an endowment and we'll spend whatever it is a year in interest and we'd have it forever. Or as long as we do something with it. And maybe even get it bigger, grow the fund. But I think there's still 2 or 3 more settlements coming through yet. But there's no reason why we couldn't be spending the interest right now, what we do have on programs. But I would just advocate for that if we could.
Didn't we ask Brian to see if we could actually put it in an endowment?
Okay.
I think, oh, we can. Cool.
But you have to spend it on those, it's identified, you know, what you can spend it on. And as long as those things in the community needs, whatever it might be, maybe just one program we fund with the interest, or we don't set it up in as endowment. But I think it's always a strong position for us to have it as an endowment to help us with some of those other programs we have in case they fail or they, you know, federal funding stops. We may want to use it to supplant missing federal funds for an existing really good program that tribal health has or somebody else has, or for a court system. I don't know, but just
Yeah, maintenance,
Yeah.
ongoing, perpetuating. Well, we got Monica at 9:40, so we got 20 minutes. Yeah. Need to cook your bagel.
Couple soup.
I had my toaster strudel.
We're on break until 9:40 with Monica Chanel.
The chair, that's something to mention. They're having a public meeting in Missoula on the 15th about, they're having it at the, I think it's a Holiday Inn downtown. And it's about the moving of the distribution center from Missoula to Spokane. So they haven't done it yet, but I might, if I can, I might try to go attend that. But I just saw it on social media today. Postal Service was having that. I did send a comment just for myself to the Postal Service. They were accepting online comments and I mentioned how that would affect the tribes in general. So did do that. So
Another reason for postal delay, not just snow, sleet, rain. Go ahead, Jen.
Are you guys touring the central accounting today? At the end of council? I know,
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either, so I was just checking, because I'm just getting asked.
Anybody want to tour central accounting?
Or we can schedule for next week. I was just,
Let's do it next week.
okay, I'll let them know.
Jen, I see you sent out the place name history of Dixon. Are we doing something with it today?
She wants to present that during legal,
Okay,
and Dan Decker won't be here. It'll be John Harris.
okay. I just want to make sure everybody had a chance to look at that.
Good morning. How is everyone? How are you doing?
Good.
I need some coffee.
Got coffee.
Oh, yeah, thanks for making some time. I just wanted to come up and check in and catch up and kind of happy to give you an update on the race or where I am or anything that you want to know about the campaign. But wanted to check in with all of you and kind of see what are the hot button issues. If they're hot potato, I don't want them. You keep them. Don't throw them my way. But oh, thank you. Just kind of I was over in Browning the other day. They were talking about fentanyl, VA clinic. I know you have totally different issues. I didn't get a chance to read the order on the PL 280 issues. Are you following that at all with the law enforcement? So wanted to hear kind of where you all are on that. I just know it's out there. I haven't dug into the details of it yet. So I did some kind of high level stuff with housing issues that are here, and happy to hear more from you on those things. And then I've had some conversations with Brian Lipscomb about the energy keepers and the dam and all that stuff. So that's kind of just general high level stuff of what I'm tracking, and love to hear kind of where you are and just listen. I'm good at talking now. I'm a politician. I'm official.
Go ahead, James.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a personal thing, when I've tried to call the congressman's office, it's a voicemail. And I call either the senator's office or you get a live person. So I kind of made a snide remark on my own personal Facebook, not the tribes or anything, but like, you can call a congressman, ask him for help, you get a voicemail. And I called DC, I called the local offices, you can't get anybody on the phone. As a potential congressperson, what is your feelings in terms of, constituents call the office? I thought somebody would at least answer it in DC during regular business hours, no. But the senator's office, and I got an answer. I think I even got answers when Rayburg was in office. I think somebody answered the phone. So I don't know what's going on with our congressman, but he's been, I don't know, he's been hard to get a hold of, hard to get pinned down to have a meeting. He was supposed to meet with us a while back and didn't show up. And the PL 280 thing, that's a whole nother
Sticky wicket.
kettle of fish. I don't know what his position is on that, but that's something we're, of course, in a struggle with Lake County and governor's office. And but a big thing is what is your stand in terms of constituents? And they're trying to get a hold of the congressperson, and is it important for somebody to be there at the phone to answer and hear the calls? So I left my concern. I was opposed to this impeachment process of President Biden. I think it's an absolute joke. And then also to, support the efforts of the tribes in a variety of places. So, but I couldn't talk to a live person. I left a voicemail.
Hopefully it was listened to. I feel really strongly about representative democracy, and I think the partnership with the tribes is something that I'm really interested in kind of figuring out and what that looks like. And I've told many of you this, and those of you who don't know, I grew up in Ashland, and I was the only white kid in my class, which is a perspective, right? It's a perspective. But I do feel like the relationship with the tribes, the federal government and the tribes, is one that we need to be intentional about and pay attention to, and try to build. And I think trust starts with showing up and showing up and showing up. And so I feel really strongly about showing up and looking people in the eyes and saying, here's where I am on this. If I'm not with you on something, you should hear that from me and know that from me from the outset. And I think we need to talk through things. I'm not going to agree with everybody on everything, but I'm going to try to do right by Montana and my constituents at every turn. And the only way I can do that is knowing where you are and what your needs are. And that comes from talking to you. And it was your dad, Joe. He actually had a kind of a big impact on me, interestingly. You're probably not surprised by that, but he came to a few of my events and he told me stories about going to DC and, you know, having the door always be open and just being able to be heard, and he had strong opinions. But I've been trying to think of ways that what that could look like, so you have somebody on the ground. Like, I don't think people should have to go to DC or call DC. I feel like there should be a point of contact in every community. And, you know, if people don't get a social security check or they need help with something, they should be able to get a response. And a lot of people are really busy and don't have time to go to a federal office or even look up the number or figure out, you know, somebody should answer. So I've been thinking about what are ways where I could be present in the community and feel like people have their government. I mean, that's kind of the culture of Montana in a lot of ways, that our elected representatives are accessible. And so I feel that's something I feel very strongly about, and it's important to me. I answer to the people. You're my boss. And that needs to be lived. That value needs to be lived. So I'm, you know, if, yeah, how should I have an office here or something? You know, like, what does that look like? What does that really mean? So it's actually purposeful. I would like to make sure that not just to say I'll do that, but what are ways to make it actually be meaningful? So, one of the things that you asked though, is about the partnership with the county commissioners. And I was in Sanders County and they said that they had a really good partnership with you on the fires. Is that, I mean, I guess I'm just kind of throwing that out there as kind of a general statement, but in terms of firefighting, I think they actually, if I remember it right, I have to look at my notes from it, but I think they said that you actually were, when that Paradise Fire, were you all there first or something? Was that I can't remember what happened, but they said they had a good partnership with you. And let's hope that that doesn't become an issue this summer, but things are not looking good, right?
Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Monica, thank you for coming in, and I'm so glad you're running. And of course, I do have a couple of checks for you, but I refuse to put stamps on now that they may be going to Spokane. You know, we don't like that.
Wait, what's going on with the post office? Really?
Well, they're talking about moving the distribution center from Missoula to Spokane.
Oh,
That one.
okay.
So, but anyway,
Yeah.
we certainly don't support that. We want to keep jobs in Montana. We want to keep our mail local. I don't want to speak for the council, but maybe I am. I don't know. We always get information. Should we put something here and gotta go to Missoula and then come back here? It's like, what's that about? You know? But
Yeah.
you talk about, you know, the public law 280. And so the tribal council here is, you know, really interested in us capturing as much as we can as far as local court system and policing of our own people. But there is a tremendous lack in the federal justice system for funding in Indian country. And you'll hear that at every reservation. So when they're not a public law 280 tribe, they're reliant upon a lot of federal support and federal officers, and those relationships are weak at best. And so we would really be interested in order to us to fully try to recapture our own destiny in our law enforcement and court system, to be able to have a lot more federal support, a lot more funding availability that would come down. That is our true limiting factor, other than what has delegated us to enforce, whether it's Violence Against Women Act or, you know, Tribal Law Enforcement Act. Those are empowering tools that we use and rely on, that we institute some of those today. But I think the federal system just needs to be more supportive We need funding for our court system, you know, our drug court, our wellness court, whatever you want, family court, whatever you want to call it. We need federal support to be able to do that, because we do have a lot of Indians from other tribes here. So we're talking about just not our own people. We're talking about a secondary population of Native Americans that we're responsible for in policing. That we've been empowered to do. So that comes with a big burden on our small population. And so that would be one of the things we'd really want to be able to deal with really well. A couple of things we've been working on, the Smith Stone cleanup.
Oh,
So we certainly like to make sure that we, you know, any person in the congressional seat representing us would be supportive of cleaning that up. Let's get that done. Putting pressure on EPA to finish that. We also just recently hit a milestone with the water pollution issue coming from Canada, up in British Columbia in the headwaters of the Kootenai River. We were able to work, and Senator Tester really helped us quite a bit. But because it's a boundary water issue, the water pollution is coming from coal mines in Elk River, British Columbia, and British Columbia is highly influenced by the mining industry in the world, as is the entire Canadian government. All the mining companies seem to reside in Canada, in the world. And so it's really, you know, they really are in bed with mining. And so when there's this massive open pit coal mines occurring in the Elk River, the headwaters of the Kootenai River, it's really causes selenium water pollution catastrophe that the fish are being mutated. We're losing reproductive capability in the fisheries. We don't know the extent of the water pollution problem, but it needed to be fixed. It's been going on for quite some time. Mining's been going on up there for nearly 100 years, but they've just gone so widely full guns where they've leveled the mountain range like the Mission Range here completely, and all that runoff coming off of that non-restored landscape is causing the selenium pollution that's just can't keep going. So anyway, we were able to, you know, be successful for the first time to engage the Boundary Water Treaty Act and the Boundary Waters Commission. And so it's in a tentative kind of spot right now where it looks like both the United States and Canada has signed on, and they've made the request to the International Joint Commission. But we need to make sure that we don't want to let up on the pressure. We really need to have our congressional representative for Western Montana step on it, and Mr. Zinke is not that person. He's pro mining.
okay.
So it'd be great to be able to have help with that.
That treaty is in place, correct?
The 1909 Boundary Water Treaty Act.
Yep.
Mhm.
And so the International Joint Commission is it renewing it? Was it up? There was something that was up.
They just need to be engaged. And
Okay.
so they're the neutral
Okay.
party that comes in and
Yeah.
you know, keeps the war between Canadians and the U.S. citizens from happening.
Okay,
They
Yeah.
are the judge, jury, and finder of fact.
okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that's the
Yeah, I'm happy to dig into that a little bit further because I've heard about that from a couple of other sources too. And so I'm
Yeah.
certainly willing to dig in on that issue.
so on the other Columbia River stuff. Of course, you know the Columbia River Treaty is still going forward. We want to make sure the tribes are represented in that, or influence you might have in Congress with that. But also when we talk about restoring fisheries in the Columbia and the removal of dams,
Yeah,
and part of the mitigation package for that removal of dams is providing additional production of electrons, clean energy, some way, shape, or form. So they were looking at like the Snake River dams, removing 3 of them. And then, okay, well, then we're going to lose this many megawatts of electricity. We got to replace that. They were going to award that, and they are basically on the $200 million agreement that Bonneville Power has now signed with the lower tribes. They are going to assist them in developing alternative energy sources. And we're part of the Columbia. So when they remove those dams, that affects your power rate, my power rate. We're all paying for that. We would like to be able to capture some of that opportunity for production and distribution here in Montana, in particular Western Montana. So as that goes forward, we really want to make sure that we're at the table. We're not they've always shafted Montana when we talk about water movement, water storage and everything else. And so we paid a really abnormally high price in unfunded mitigation from Libby Dam and Hungry Horse Dam on our systems. And downstream issues for salmon have always taken the front seat. And we've always been at the back of the bus. And once again, when they talk about building new power facilities, it's going to be the front of the bus gets the opportunity. But we need to have equal footing in that. We need to have that same opportunity. We're in the business of generating electricity. We know how to run hydropowers, and of course, you've talked to Brian Lipscomb. So we are deeply interested in equal opportunity. If there's going to be an opportunity for new power generation, we want to make sure that we have that opportunity here in equal position. Those plants don't have to be down there. They could be here. You know,
Does the tribe have a position on the dams, on the Snake River dams?
we've supported the restoration of native fisheries historically.
Okay. But you acknowledge the need for the generation and replacement, and there's a conversation
We
to
don't
be had.
think that the downstream river tribes are uniquely situated, that they need to be ones to be handed an opportunity to develop a whole power plant.
Okay,
That could be anybody, and it should
Right.
be considered us.
Okay.
We should have that equal opportunity to do that.
okay.
So, we
Is
need to
there-
replace those electrons, you know, that electricity that's gonna be missing. We need to provide that, replace that with clean energy. But that could be us with wind, it could be us with solar, it could be us with, you know, small scale hydro, it could be a collage of different things that we'd be able to do here. Or it might be a way that for us to distribute power better to get it where the demand is needed. So
Mhm.
distribution system could do that too.
Are there any active development, exploration efforts here, geothermal, hydrogen, anything
Well, I
going
think
on?
we have a tremendous opportunity
check
in the
into.
future for geothermal. Once our water settlement is finalized,
Okay,
part of our mitigation package in the Water Settlement Act is for us to develop geothermal. And so
another reason.
that's there, but we have to wait for it.
Okay,
Yeah, we're looking at other investments, whether it be, you know, solar farms or wind farms. We're looking at that right now.
okay.
But one of the key things is that wheeling that electricity. And so when you get into the parameters of,
I was just gonna ask about transmission.
yeah,
but
you gotta be
yeah.
able to, you can put in a big old plant somewhere, but you gotta be able to get that into the energy grid somewhere, or you gotta be able to get that to the market. And that's always been a limiting factor in the United States electrical grid, and particularly for Montana.
Are you familiar at all, and I know just enough to be dangerous about this, so I'm gonna throw it out there. But I need to do a little bit of my own homework on this. I think BPA was gonna repurpose all their transmission lines, basically to step them up for further capacity. And that created an opportunity on the Montana side to match that, which would have given more capacity for wheeling power. And my understanding, and again, I need to fact check all of this, and I know just a little bit about it, but that Northwestern didn't want to match that transmission upgrade that's happening on the BPA side. So something to look into, and sort of an area of interest for me. Have you heard about this at all?
No,
or- okay.
I would talk to Brian Lipscomb.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems to me like something of interest
Yeah.
because there is so much opportunity, and without even building more transmission, using what's there with upgrades and simply matching what's already going on with resources available, it seems like a low-hanging fruit.
Mhm.
Okay, so just wanted to ask about that. Well, this is a lot that you've given me.
Well,
to-
the last thing that we're working on right now, more of a local thing, is Medicaid. And, you know, that whole scenario of, you know, what's happened through COVID and everybody getting off, you know, and reapplying and, you know, making sure that Montana can capture that federal dollars for Medicaid.
Has that impacted you? Have you had people kicked off who are not? What does the impact look like here for that?
I know of people that have, I don't know what the impact is. I mean, certainly people were left on because of COVID and they didn't have their income requirements
Right.
were frozen.
Right, and then
So
through this-
legitimately, some people need to get kicked off. I just don't know.
with this re-enrollment, everybody got kicked off, and then a lot of people didn't know about it.
Yeah.
So are there people that, I mean,
That-
I would love to talk to people this is directly
Well,
impacting on the ground.
we've charged
right
our
now.
tribal health department with trying to make sure that our membership knows and we have some staff that are helping them reapply. But I think that's been the issue is the capacity for the state to be able to get those applications in and process them. And that people know that they need to reapply. I think those are the two weak links in the process right now.
And I'm hearing the impact, not just from the personal side of it and the individual being able to get care, but also from the hospital side of it. So because they're not getting reimbursed when they should be, because then people end up going into an ER. They're like, what? I don't have health insurance. They find it out at the last minute, go to the ER, and then the hospital doesn't get covered. So I'm kind of hearing about it. It's having that dual impact,
I
which is
can't
pretty.
imagine Montana surviving without Medicaid.
Right.
I can't imagine all the healthcare facilities, no matter what they are, from a elders care facility to a rural hospital to a clinic to whatever. We have to have Medicaid.
Have you had anything, nursing homes closing has been a really big deal across the district. I'm hearing about that. Any impact here? It's really heartbreaking to have conversations with people in their 70s and 80s who say, we don't have anywhere to go.
Mr. Chair? Yeah, basically on the whole Medicaid thing, is it with people just being dropped off, it's like administrative paper problem over there. People just dropped off of the rolls and not told about it. And then, so it's just been a really terrible time, just basically people applying for it and not knowing they got kicked off of Medicaid. But the other thing with the people that we have on Medicaid, so tribal health and IHS is a payer of last resort. So
Mhm.
if a person has Medicaid or private health insurance, that is charged first.
But that's not
If-
that's only if you're on the reservation boundary. Is that right or no?
I mean, it's in the, God, what is the term? There's a zone or area that tribal
Okay.
health, because what's
Service.
service area, thank you,
Okay.
Tom. Yeah, the service area includes communities off the reservation, so like Missoula.
Okay,
Within a certain amount.
okay.
It's called the service area. And, but people can come to the reservation, get service, but if they don't have Medicaid, then tribal health has to pick up that whole, or IHS, tribal health picks up the whole bill, but most definitely, I don't know that the direct impact in terms of, what you were asking about, but I do know there's an impact. It might be just different for us than necessarily, the homes that you were discussing. But the impact is definitely there. When I worked at Tribal Health and could see the staff that were struggling with trying to get folks reapplied, get them back through that system and the paperwork that they were having a hard time dealing with in Helena, so. But I don't know. The big thing too is, how do we, get, what's different between this time you're running and the time before? I mean.
Yeah.
You were like close.
Yeah.
And I agree with all the vice chairman's comments, but what makes this race different? What are you doing differently? What are things that,
How am I gonna win?
how are we gonna get, we need somebody that can come and
Yeah.
talk to us like this. I mean,
Yeah,
really.
yeah. Well, so, different year, different race. I'm a different candidate. I've done this once now, so I have more experience. So we're looking at kind of what happened in 22 and what we're looking at in the cycle of 24. So it was 7,500 votes was the difference. It was the closest race in the country in a Trump +4 or more district with no national money. So I didn't have any outside support. I was outspent basically 3-1. And so that's different this cycle. So this race is on the red to blue, official red to blue. So it's one of the top pickup seats in the country. So we do have national partners this cycle that we didn't have last cycle. And one of the asks that I have for you is, can you support me with, official tribal support so that I can go to other tribes across the country who are willing to support candidates who are in red to blue areas. So that's one of the things that if I can take that away, that would be fantastic and a good endorsement and support. So that's one of my asks for you, is to be, an official partner with me in this race. So the things that we have to do better, I have to do better in Indian country, for sure. So I need to show up, build relationships, build that trust, get out. So that's one of my jobs, and I'm trying to do that, every day and kind of where I can, but appreciate information from you. If there are things that I can come to, places I can show up, things that matter, tell me and I'll go. I'll come. And so we're also looking at, with Senator Tester in the race, the Senate race is going to be one of the biggest races in the country. That'll bring resources that I just didn't have last time. So I had a competitive primary. I won that by 40 points, but came out of that in June with no money and pretty, not great name recognition. But so I invested 5 months into getting my name out there, and some people liked the snake ads and some people didn't, but my mom is 90 and I saw her the other day and I said, Mom, what were the first 3 words that you said to me? Because we grew up, if you've been to Powder River country, this is not going to surprise you, but I said, Mom, what were the first 3 words that you said to us when we left every day to walk to school? It didn't start with I, it didn't end with you, and there wasn't love in the middle. It was watch for snakes. Those are the last 3 words she said to us every day. Watch for snakes. Anyway, I don't know how I got down that rabbit hole, but there will be resources here this cycle that were just not here last cycle. And so connecting with voters, getting out the vote, definitely, letting people know where they vote. I mean, one of the things that has really jumped out at me is kind of the growth in the population in Western Montana and the precincts where people are registered. And for you all, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but you cover 4 counties. So that's a lot of confusion about where you might be voting. And so really addressing those kind of systemic issues is important, and that takes a lot of resources on the ground, and those resources will be here this year. So it's different, and that gives me an opportunity to break through. Yeah. Okay. Oh, you're but I definitely want, I need help, I need support, and point me in the right direction. I got to 2 Olympics because I'm pretty coachable. So, I like to run, so point me in the right direction and I'll work hard. But I do need your help. So, tell me where that will be effective.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, James.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm also on the Western Native Voice Board. So we have a C4 and a C3. So you'd probably be engaging with the one that can do the political work. I always get
Yeah.
I get the 2 mixed up.
Yeah.
I'm on the nonpartisan board, but we do have the others. So
Yeah. And they're doing really good work.
yeah, they're getting a bunch of money to work on these. So
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. And I think it's important to be showing up and, just connecting with people. I mean, again, not just as an aside, but as an example of when, you have several different counties and precincts and people are like, well, why are you voting in Lake County and I'm voting in Sanders County? And I mean, some of the confusion that produces, this district splits Pend Oreille County. So we have Heart Butte, which is in Pend Oreille County. So the people in Pend Oreille County are like, well, you're not in our district. I'm like, yeah, actually, we have Harview, we have Valier and Dupuyer. And, you know, it's been an intentional, funded, calculated effort to tell people your voice and your vote doesn't matter. That's what we're up against. It's, you know, those are the dark forces we're up against, and people need to engage, and we need to give them a reason to and tell them, especially young people. I have 3 daughters, and, you know, our young people need to know that their voice matters. We need to tell them that over and over. So I'm all ears if you have any advice on breaking through.
Thank you, Monica. I do have to say, definitely we'd look to endorse you if we could, but we actually took action that we would not endorse anybody from this council. And so that would have to be a discussion that we do have amongst ourselves before we could actually do that. You'd definitely be the candidate to do it for, but we kind of learned our lesson in needing to work across the aisle all the time.
Yeah.
So I do have to tell you that.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, just coming from Montana my whole life, you know, I've always thought, isn't it just about getting stuff done for Montana? I hate the idea of an aisle.
I do too.
Unless you're walking
right
down it
through
to get married.
And I was very frustrated when Mr. Zinke presented a bill on Flathead Lake level without ever even talking to us, not even mentioning it. So, no, I understand. We need you.
Yeah, and it was interesting to see that the lead complainant in that filing at FERC was the vice president of supply for Northwestern Energy. So, yeah, follow the money. I mean, that's what I've been trying to do my whole life. So,
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, James.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's why we're thankful our company doesn't have to go through the PSC. We don't have to deal with the PSC, so.
another,
You wanna
yeah.
talk about a monkey show? That's a monkey show to just be blunt.
That's a very polite term. Well, let's not offend the
That would
monkeys.
be insulting monkeys that way.
Yeah. I think I'm off to do another tour here. Is there anything else that we should be?
Go ahead, Len.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. And once again, Monica, thank you for taking the time to come and visit with us this morning. You know, as the chairman mentioned that we do have a resolution showing where we're not going to endorse candidates, but as you see, each and every one of us here support you, and you certainly have our vote.
Thank you.
Yes. I just wanted to briefly mention that the Rocky Mountain Tribal Leaders will be meeting on March 26th and 27th in Billings. And we would certainly welcome you to stop in and say a few words. I think that would be really appreciated from the tribal leaders.
Great, thanks. That's a great, anyone I should reach out to specifically or?
Yes, Bill Snell, he's the director.
No, I know that name, Snell.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
yeah, I mean,
Okay.
if you just want to stop in for 5 or 10
Great.
minutes and,
Great, thank you. I'll follow up.
all right.
Thanks, that's a good thought.
Well, good luck.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Thank you, council members. I really appreciate your time and always appreciate checking in and happy to give you my cell phone. I'm
Sure.
old fashioned, so I like to actually talk on it and use it like a phone. My kids are like, won't answer it. They're like, just text. I'm like, really? It's actually a phone. So thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and look forward to staying in touch. Oh, my number, you want it? 406-431-8935. Comes to me, I answer, and
Yeah, Tom, go ahead.
Just, there is a Earth Day gathering up in Kalispell on April 20th. I don't know if you're, I can't promise you a speaking engagement there, but certainly I'm going to be a keynote speaker and I'll recognize you in the audience if you're there.
that sounds great. April 20th in Kalispell?
Yeah, it's at the
Okay.
Kalispell, at the community college up there, the Arts and Technology Building.
Okay.
9 AM.
Oh, excellent. That's great. And just an aside, I don't know if any of you are following, since you mentioned the PSC, there is a filing that was made there to challenge or ask that climate be considered when you're analyzing resources. And the filing was made by a number of different petitioners, and Big Sky, the ski resort, is one of them. So that's a fairly significant movement in the right direction with people who have invested economic interests in a snowpack. So we're seeing some kind of realism maybe, which is good. So thank you for your time, everyone. I really appreciate it, and we'll be in touch. Okay, I'll work hard.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Monica.
and safe travels. Matthew, you're up. Come on up. Good morning. Hope everything's going well.
Well, hello, Chairman and members of the council. So today I am bringing a request for a product we've been exploring for a while. So going back to November of last year, in conjunction with a grant, a cybersecurity grant we were considering at the time, we started looking for products that would help strengthen and add to our security layers that we have here. We started looking at various products, both single products as well as multiple products to fill some of those needs. We, through the process, narrowed it down to some key components and products, and ultimately have chosen and desire to use a product by Darktrace. They're out of the UK, is our global headquarters, and they've got a US headquarters in San Francisco and a dozen other offices here in the US. They're a publicly traded company. Really, the impetus for this is we are wanting to make sure we have better visibility for all of the content and data and traffic, that includes emails, that come and go from our network. There's been a 135% increase since 2023 just on email and phishing attacks, based on some studies done. So our big thing is we wanted a product or a set of products that would take both the email side of things for you as a user, but also still keep that in mind with you as a user and how you move about our network here at CSKT. So this particular tool is AI based. It builds an artificial intelligence baseline for you. So it knows the emails you send and receive, who you send and receive them to, the traffic you interface with on our network, and it helps build those baselines so it knows what normal behavior looks like to you, and then helps to alert us if those behaviors go outside of normal. There's an automated piece to this as well that will, after some training, the system learning everybody's baselines, we can actually have it also automatically react. So if a user is compromised, either on the network or via email, it can actually lock those users out from the network to prevent the spread of something malicious, as well as help identify and keep CSKT data. So if somebody was trying to exfiltrate a whole bunch of data, upload it to a place they don't normally send data to, et cetera, it actually will alert and or shut down that connection and help us to make sure that doesn't happen. So some of the things we were keeping in mind when we first started looking was management access for us to be able to see all of this, react to all of this, but also keep the human workload down. You know, the power of AI allows us to take all of the central components of this and keep it in a streamlined stack so that it can respond at 2 a.m. when we're not awake. You know, that was the main thrust. But also during the week, we can provide reports. We can look at what data and content is happening. And another component of this is it does network scanning on a normal basis and alerts us of any products that we have on the network that may need firmware updates or has vulnerabilities that we can address in a prioritized manner. So we're constantly staying on top of those things. So that's what this product does. The main component of my ask is because they are a UK held company and their US headquarters is San Francisco, we do have a jurisdictional / governance issue. So that's the first thing I'd like to get resolved is they have proposed a change, which you should have in your packet. It is page number. Well, go ahead, Stu. That's not my power.
On the spot, gotta love it. I'll rather than the specific language in the document, I'll start with just sort of the general overview that our understanding in legal department, or our mandate, if you will, is to employ CSKT government or CST governance as a function of CSKT government, which includes using CSKT court as the jurisdiction for tribal contracts and tribal actions, or the court system of CSKT. The original proposal from Darktrace has a standard language that is, excuse me, that actually I'll note also, we are in general session, Matthew, I had raised my hand earlier and I will lower it now, I apologize. If you're discussing something IT-based that should be confidential for any reason, or contract stuff, I'm not too worried about. But just a heads up that this is an open session right now, and if there's something that should be proprietary for IT security purposes, then just be so advised. Back to the jurisdiction. The standard request, therefore, the standard demand, if you will, from CSKT Legal, when we're talking with people or looking at contracts, is that the jurisdiction be in the tribal courts of the CSKT, employing the laws of the CSKT. In this instance, Darktrace had said that it can't do that. And we discussed different options with them, recognizing that the discussion does not give any indication that council will or will not do something. We're looking legal in this discussion to try and promote IT's interest in having a contract. And therefore, we describe that to Darktrace, as well as, of course, working with IT on it. But the discussion basically came back to what may be argued as a best next option, which would be the law of the state of Montana employed by the federal district courts for the state of Montana. So it's the federal courts in the District of Montana that would be any hearing or location for hearing challenges at court or at law. The original proposal from Darktrace is California law employed in the courts of the District of California for the United States government. The state court, or excuse me, federal courts are broken into districts. Each state is its own district, and then there's the multiple courts within. So in Montana, for example, there's federal court in Missoula, federal court in Helena, federal court in Billings, Great Falls, et cetera. In the original proposal, the California law is pretty far into us, and I believe there's only one tribal legal department member who is barred in the state of member of the state bar to practice in front of California courts. And in Montana, there's obviously quite a few more, as well as geographic availability of the court itself. So is it a good option? Personally, I would prefer to see CSKT courts employing CSKT law. In discussing with the legal department about the sort of pros, cons, et cetera, of Montana state law employed by a federal court, the logistical part of that is not a challenge. The state laws are actually probably not bad. I can't say, we wouldn't know, obviously, what piece of the law of state law of Montana is going to be employed. The Montana Code Annotated employs or encompasses probably, I want to say about 10 feet of shelf of the actual code if it was print or is printed in the print version. I don't consider it unreasonable, but that is the option from, or the proposal from Darktrace based on our discussion. So kind of hand it back to the council for questions or concerns, try and answer them as best I can. Or of course, Matthew, if you or someone else in IT has a question or wants to raise something, I'm happy to try and help here. Otherwise, that's kind of where we are now. Legally speaking, is that acceptable? Yes, I think it probably would be. Not as desirable as the council's mandate to be in tribal courts, but if that's not an option with Darktrace, then that may help council in deciding how to proceed or if to proceed with the contract. I'll note that this isn't the first time this has happened. It's nothing, I wouldn't say it's common, but it is certainly not something new either. So thank you. Appreciate the opportunity, Matthew, and to council.
Go ahead, Len.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, I think at this point in time, I would like to go into an executive session and have a discussion with Lisa before we vote on this matter.
I don't know that we've had everything presented yet, but definitely we can go into executive and chat with Lisa. Before we do that, I do want to ask Stu a question about did Blacktrace give a reason why they wouldn't go to tribal court?
Darktrace's main reasons were just because they don't have, correct me if I'm misrepresenting, I do have a member from Darktrace here. Their legal team just doesn't have jurisdiction in tribal court, so their headquarters is in California. So their original statement, as Stu mentioned, was California courts, and they agreed to move it to the federal courts and state Montana law, but that was their primary reason, was kind of the halfway point.
Thank you, Matt. I guess at this time we'll go out of regular into executive. Matthew back in.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, James.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And looking at your buying details, I noticed that governing laws, it says United Kingdom. But obviously, if you're doing work in the United Kingdom, you're subject to the laws and such of the United Kingdom. And the United States of America, the laws of the state of California, the state or federal courts in San Francisco, California. So, just respectfully understand that we do have courts, we do have a tribal court system. And that's why it's a concern for us, because we do have sovereign immunity as a tribe. And so just as the United States does in the state of California, and historically, when our ancestors entered into the treaty, it was Washington territory. Montana didn't even exist. So historically, we got put together with the state against our will, got pushed into a treaty process that we really didn't want. But we do have a tribal court right over here. They exercise civil and criminal jurisdiction over our reservation and over our business entities. And there's other business entities and arrangements that we've entered into that have abided by the tribal court being the arbiter of civil disagreements. So we've had that happen. So just wanted to mention that. It's kind of coincidental that you mentioned the United Kingdom in your packet and you're willing to abide by that, but when it comes to an Indian tribe, well, we don't know. You know, but it's not just your company, but it's, all companies do that. They kind of look at Indian tribes like a calf looks at a new gate in some regards. What? They got courts? They don't live in teepees? They have electricity? They operate companies and such? But I appreciate the presentation and I appreciate the value of, because we definitely need this in this modern age of, you know, everybody was trying to message me on Facebook today. Facebook is down. I didn't know why, but anyway, just an observation. Thank you.
Other questions? I know a couple. Lynn, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Matt, in regards to the services that they're providing, who provided the services prior to this?
So we currently do not have anything that does all that the dark trades product entails. So our main source of collection right now is logs. So it's after the fact processing. We have nothing that is examining those logs in a real-time process, nor any human that's, you know, looking at those.
Okay.
So this is filling a need we currently do not have filled.
Has this company worked with tribal governments before?
Yes, they have.
Okay, which ones?
Sure. Annalise, do you have that information?
Thank you, Chairman and Council. Annalise Meyer with Dark Trace. I, of course, am not able to name the names of all of the tribes, but I can name a few that have agreements with us to.
Or I should say
be
Montana
publicly-
tribes.
What's that?
I should say Montana tribes.
Montana tribes specifically. Montana tribes, I don't have references that are Montana tribes. However, do work with recently Barona tribe out of California. They had similar agreement with the state of California and federal court being out of there. Also have personally work with a couple of tribes out of Alaska, the Aleut tribe, as well as the Tanana Chiefs tribe. And
one other question. So were those tribes asked to waive their sovereign immunity?
they did agree to the federal court being the court of jurisdiction as well.
Okay.
As I believe is standard with most, software licensing, such as Microsoft or other ones that would be a standard agreement type, such as that.
Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, being technologically retarded, let's just say that, challenged, okay. With the correct word today, special citizen. So what you're telling me is that this intelligent system will operate similar to like my credit card, my Visa card does. Learns my behavior, see something going on real time, then it's going to notify you of a system breach or?
Yeah, at a base level, similar. Yeah, very much. Where your transactions on the network are analyzed in real time, and a response is either asked to be made or is made after the model has known better. And in the same way as that credit card transaction, where you might get a fraud alert and it might suspend the transaction, and then there are times where we might have to say, no, that was legitimate. But as time goes on, it learns your behavior better and better.
So, I mean, how does the system react? What do you do with this information? I mean, how does it affect the system?
As far as taking the action? So when two devices are connected together, it will do an interrupt and basically sever that communication. So in the case of if a computer were to be infected, for instance, and was starting to contact things outside of that computer's baseline, it would actually interrupt that network connection and keep it from getting to other network resources to basically try and isolate that system. Is that an accurate representation?
Yes, absolutely. And I would add to that. So, credit card example is a fantastic example, one that I think a lot of people relate to more and probably gives a better comprehensive understanding of, what our AI is doing with that is you liken it to the human immune system. So your immune system knows what's normal, what's you, and when there's a virus, whether it's one that has been seen before or one that's just brand new, it recognizes, hey, this isn't part of me. This isn't normal to my body, how things work, and it's going to take action to stop that virus. That's very similar to what we're doing within your network and network activity, understanding what is normal, what is you for Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes, like how do your users move throughout your environment, who's communicating with you, and baseline all of that normal, and then act as your immune system to when there is something that starts to look like threat. So even from the earliest indicators of ransomware, we're able to stop that regardless of it's a 0-a-day attack, which is a attack that's the first of its kind attack. We're seeing a lot more of those since generative AI. We're seeing those in the news all the time. And it's something that we can't be retroactive with because that's too late. So with this, it takes action at machine speed and scale. This is where the AI comes in, is ingesting all of that information that traditionally you'd look at in individual logs and may be difficult for a single person to go through and correlate an incident in the amount of time that takes. The attackers have already used AI, already in the system, and it's a little too late to be retroactive. This is in the moment that happens, similar to your Chase fraud alert, to your credit card alert, would take action to stop that from going through and allow time for Matthew and team to come in and close the doors on the situation.
Who's your big corporate customers? I mean, your larger accounts with for Dark Force.
Yeah, Dark Trace.
Dark Trace.
That's all right.
Dark Force.
Dark Force. Star Wars over here.
Yeah, thanks, Star Wars. Yeah, I just went and watched Dune. It wasn't that good, but it was okay. But sorry, just out of the blue, I had to say that.
Yeah, fantastic question. Putting me on the spot a little bit with that one, trying to remember which ones are public information versus private. I know, so a lot of the ones that going to be out of the UK, Drax, utilities, work with a number of hospitals, work with some of the larger soda brands. I can't name which ones, but a few of those. So we do have a number of customers across all industries and across all sizes as well, because you're not we're not hosting your data outside and applying other people's data to information to your environment. We're applying it specifically to your environment, which allows us to cross industries, cross sizes of organizations as well. So if you'd like a specific list of some of the larger customers, I can get that to you outside. I apologize for not being prepared with that coming in here.
Go ahead, James.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I noticed it looked like I saw, I think, City of Las Vegas in here.
Yes, yes.
Just a comment, just with AI standing for artificial intelligence, it's kind of amazing what is coming out of this, but this is the other side of that, of what potential attacks can attack our system. And like you said, with artificial intelligence, I mean, I've been able to say, write me a speech about X, write me a speech about Montana, and that artificial intelligence will pop up a speech for me, which is kind of amazing. I'm like, who is in there writing that? But that's the kind of the dark side of that, to borrow the vice chairman's word. It's kind of astounding. It's not just the traditional somebody sitting in some country scamming your system. This is all on its own, just
Absolutely.
after the system, and it's Star Wars. It
Not
can-
Russians.
It's not Russians. It could be, but it could be Chinese, could be whoever aims that artificial intelligence at a particular system. Yeah. Thank you.
Chairman,
Go ahead,
I
Matt.
just wanted to add real quick that this is the good side of AI that I always like to talk about. You know, so much of AI in the news is either superficial or negative. And this is where we're trying to leverage AI to combat the negative, but also do what humans just can't. I mean, that's the whole power of the AI stack, is condensing these things into a single application that then allows our management side to be lightened, and not have to hire additional employees to sit there and look at, drumming logs. One of the things too I want to key on in one of the reasons we chose Darktrace too is, and Annalise mentioned it, but briefly, all of the data stays here. Some of the providers we looked at use cloud services to process the data and to return back responses. The device with Darktrace sits in our data center. All the data passes through it, but nothing is retained. So our data is not sent anywhere. Our data remains here where it should be and is not being sent out for processing or handling anywhere else. So it's a big security win from that standpoint, which, as she mentioned, is why some of the larger corporate companies do use them.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So, the term of this contract would be how long and what's the annual fee?
Yeah, so the term is it's the remainder of FY '24 and then the 3 years after that. So it's just over 3 years. I think 44 months, I think, is where we're at total. And the annual is right there. So we're looking about 141,000 for the annual spend.
Have we had problems in the past
With
protecting our data?
we have had protecting our data, I would say that's a very broad question. Have we seen malicious activity? Yes. And have we had to report malicious activity to the federal authorities? Yes, we have. All of the reporting and activities have been many years ago before I was even here. But we see constant threats, especially with how the news portrays the tribes. I tell people I'm convinced that people think there's some Scrooge McDuck vault that everybody swims through money. Because all they read about is settlement money and oh, well, they have casinos, so they must be, raking in money. So because of the way it's presented in the press, it makes us a large target. Even though the gaming side is completely a separate company or organization than the government side, it's all conflated to the tribes. So it puts a big target on our back, which is why we want to be as proactive as possible to get ahead of it.
Other questions? Go ahead, Len.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Cybersecurity is too complex for me, I should say. We continue to have malicious activity during the tenure of this contract. Do we have clauses in there saying that we have the ability to cancel the agreement?
There is not currently a clause in there to cancel the agreement if something is discovered. The contract is written in a way that if anything is discovered, they will work with us to get it mitigated as quickly as possible. This also, there's some federal regulations for reporting and such that we have to follow with the cybersecurity councils and such. So if something were to be discovered, it's written the way, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's written in that they are partnering with us to deal with it as quickly as possible. The system automatically does so, But if something were to, I believe the framing of the question is, if something were to sneak through or to get through those defenses, what would happen if it allowed us an out? Is that correct? Yeah, so, the contract does not necessarily have that built in, I guess, to answer directly the question.
Thank you.
Question, Mr. Chair?
Go
If I may
ahead,
add to
Matt.
that, Matthew. Mr. Chairman, Lynn, within the contract, within the master services agreement, which is encompassed within the agreement of the POF, there is language, as Matthew mentioned, that, should we not meet our end of the bargain, should we, let something slip through to, as you're saying, and I assume that the heart of that question is Dark Trace would have failed to catch something and then your system is compromised. Is that correct? Absolutely. So that would be, a breach of services on our part, and there is language in there to protect in the master services agreement, which would protect the tribe in such a case. And to Matthew's point, there is a period of working towards correcting the issue before we would be in breach of services, but you are protected under that master services agreement in such a case.
Go ahead, James.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To me, having worked at the college and at the tribe, one of the things that they do, this is, you have to go through the training and don't open attachments and those kind of things. And so you have to really pay attention to where email comes from. In my mind, this whole AI thing goes way beyond just not opening a bad email. You can do that still and compromise our system, but AI is like a constant battle trying to get into your system. AI is like a war, artificial intelligence and the negative side. It's a battle constantly trying to figure out how does it get into our system and compromise it. So what you all are providing is an effort or system or software to combat that, is the way I look at it. As a former employee at Tribal Health and across the street, they were telling us, don't touch that email from John Doe that says, sign this contract. We were getting a whole bunch of those down even at Tribal Health. Some strange person that doesn't ever deal with contracts would be sending out these emails saying, sign this contract for X, Y, and Z. And then we get a report, don't sign, don't open that thing. But AI is, in my head, up beyond that. It's attacking our system constantly. And the other thing is because we're in the United States of America, not everybody in the world likes the United States of America. Just because we're situated there, the whole country's under attack. So you've got the communist Chinese have people they pay them and they put them in these rooms and just all they do all day long is trying to figure out ways but now they have AI. We'll just turn it on, give it the directions, and boom, they don't have to sit at the desk waiting, pushing for. Anyway, that's my understanding of it, basically, but and for them to, we're always reading Capital One, name the company, Delta Airlines, boom, all of these companies are getting hit by this type of thing. And we're small potatoes, but like you said, with the negativity that we get from in the press, oh yeah, there's money there to be had. Let's figure out how to get into the tribe's accounts. And that's ultimately kind of what they want to do, is figure out how to get into our money, get money out of the tribes, and before we know it, it's drained. So, but anyway, thank you.
Any other comments or thoughts? Renee, you got any thoughts? Want to share with us? Well, entertain a motion to move forward with this contract.
Motion to approve.
Motion by James Steele. Second by Tom. Yeah, I gotta get my picture of everybody up here so I can see what's going on. All in favor? Danielle and Martin, so 1, 2, 3, 4. 7-4, all opposed? Len is opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you guys very much. Have a great day.
Thank you.